I have access to $50,000 worth of booze, 24/7, 365. We never close, 100%.
Hey, welcome to a new episode of Breaking Down Addiction, a podcast by national addiction specialists. And I'm your host, Johnny Phillip. And I'm joined with my really good friend, special guest, Mathew Dwyer.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
You're pinch hitting in a way. And so thank you for the last minute decision to come on.
Absolutely.
You were doing service work last night.
I was.
So you're coming in warm.
I am.
All right. I love it. We've known each other for the better part of almost 3 decades.
Yeah,
We've lived in
there.
Wisconsin together.
Yep.
But I want to get right into this. So if you were sitting across from yourself in active addiction, what would you say?
Probably what the interior monologue of my brain always says. What the hell is wrong with you? That was one of the most infuriating things about my active addiction is that I knew better and I did it anyway. And one thing you learn, particularly in early recovery, is you can't think your way out of this problem. It doesn't care who you are, how smart you are, what kind of degrees you've got, what kind of circles you run in. Doesn't matter.
Cultural background.
It does not matter. It does not matter. Sure, Wisconsin is a notoriously booze-drenched state.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean everybody in the state is an alcoholic. Not like me.
I mean, so that's a wonderful elaboration on that. Wisconsin, for all of you listeners out there, there's maybe 8 bars to every corner. Miller owns maybe 60% of the city.
Absolutely.
You're born with a Miller High Life in your hand. Mm-hmm. So yes, I mean, there is an element of that being from Wisconsin. I mean, you and I culturally just come from a drinking town.
Sure. It's when I explain it to people, particularly in the buckle of the Bible Belt where we are now, I always think it's cute that Nashville fancies itself a drinking town, because the most insane New Year's Eve party you've been to in Nashville is just your average Tuesday night in Madison or Milwaukee. It's another dimension as far as the drinking culture. It's
Wisconsin's like Nashville, hold my beer.
Yeah, 100%.
Or my old fashioned.
My Wisconsin old fashioned.
My
There's
Wisconsin
a world
old.
of difference.
Yes,
Absolutely.
there is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you've been in the service industry for almost 3 decades, for however long that we've known each other.
Yeah.
Side note is that you were my boss once at a bar restaurant.
I was.
So we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But it seems like the service industry as a whole, it can protect your drinking.
Yes.
And how did that happen for you? And
Well,
how did that unfold?
I've definitely considered this question quite a bit, just because, as you move through the rooms, I'm an AA guy, and as you move through the rooms, you always hear people talk about how, particularly in their industry, you get a lot of drinkers. So I'm a lawyer. Nobody drinks like lawyers. I'm a nurse. Nobody drinks like nurses. I'm a teacher. Nobody drinks like teachers. The one thing that separates the service industry from any other industry is access. I have access to $50,000 worth of booze, 24/7, 365. We never close, 100%. And it is by definition a very transient industry. If you think about the people that come in, work for 2 weeks and dip, get fired, move on, go on to a real job or what have you. And it really shields people with drinking problems, because you enter that drinking culture and the alcoholic mind necessarily compares me to other people, and that is part of what getting over the hump for me in sobriety was, yes, I drink a lot, but at least I don't blank. At least I don't live under a bridge and drink it out of a paper bag,
And maybe at least you can still keep your job.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because the drinking that I did was way out of my budget. I couldn't drink the wine that I fancied or the scotch that I loved, I couldn't afford that stuff.
Yeah.
But in the restaurant, I can afford anything because it's free.
Yeah, I remember starting off shifts with a shift beer to where we're all trying a very fancy, strong beer.
Yes.
And then I remember there would be a contest on selling a beer in particular while we're working. Whoever sold the most of that focus beer, then you get like a mini bar tab.
Yes.
So it does protect it. And why as servers, as somebody in the service industry, why is drinking so prominent?
I think that there is a built-in because of the nature of the business. I feel like that there's a built-in sort of desperation or an immediacy. Everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody. Everybody I ever worked with is living paycheck to paycheck, so you're in a naturally precarious position. And if you throw this disease on top of it, it can get pretty gnarly pretty quick. And I think that's probably why it attracts us.
That's a great answer, because I remember I was a musician and toured for almost 16 years, working at a restaurant. I can always come back to my shifts,
Sure.
but I remember loving working in the service industry because alcohol was everywhere.
Yes.
But I wasn't playing music hardly anymore, so I was almost numbing myself out. Because maybe there's a certain point of directionlessness there. Yeah. What do you say to that? Or am I
agree.
far-fetched?
I think if I could describe myself in active addiction, it would definitely be rudderless and directionless and without identity. And I think that the nature of the industry is to be all things to all people. You know, if a cranky person walks in, you get them on the level. If a happy person walks in, you feed that happiness. You know, you get to be the chameleon that you are on the inside. You get to put into a professional capacity and really do it on the outside.
No, thanks for elaborating on that.
Yeah.
I mean, you were a functional drinker for a long time. What do you say the biggest lie that you told yourself to protect that narrative?
I think the biggest lie that I told myself was that everybody else was overreacting to my drinking. I think that I say that my drinking career in earnest went for about 17 years, burning through friends, burning through relationships, burning through jobs, burning through cars, burning through all of that. If anyone were to look at what I was doing objectively, they would say this person's off the deep end. You're tripping. And again, that goes back to my earlier point of I'm smarter than this. If I was an alcoholic, I would know it and I would stop, which is just nonsense. To say it out loud is, I was a crazy person. I was an absolutely insane.
You're living in
drunken
insanity.
maniac. Yes,
like
100%. 100%. And so I think that the biggest lie that I told myself, other than the comparisons, was that I was managing it. There was no measure by which I was managing anything. It was a disaster from start to finish.
Your life was unmanageable.
Completely and totally unmanageable,
as the program says.
Mm-hmm.
You were a lot of programs speak early on here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with you and maybe a few other guys, you guys helped start the log cabin group here.
I was an early attendee of the log cabin. I'm reticent to say that I was a founder because it really started while I was in treatment. And this was at the backdrop of COVID. My sobriety date is April 20th of 2020. That's 4.5 weeks into the COVID-19 pandemic. When I say I left for treatment when we were in the wiping down your groceries portion of the pandemic, that's not an exaggeration.
Real. Yeah.
So a lot of people did not respond to Zoom during the pandemic. And so how do we get a live group of guys or gals or co-ed together? And the best way to do it is outdoors. So this small group of fellers put together a group and booked some space at the Buchanan Log House down on Elm Hill Pike. And it literally started with like 4 or 5 guys standing around a fire outside of that log cabin. And I probably came in like their 3rd or 4th meeting that they had ever had. And it really resonated with me, probably because I was coming out of treatment and everything was very new to me and very exciting. And I still go to that meeting. I still do. I was just there, 2 nights ago. Incredible.
No, it's awesome. And it grew into something to where I remember I went once, there was maybe 90
Yes.
men there.
Yep.
And it's a
so
men's stag group.
it is a men's stag, and it's a speaker meeting of sorts. And we actually did outgrow the original facility. So the Buchanan Log House on Elm Hill Pike, we could not cram. With all the Crisco in the world, we couldn't grease everybody up and cram them in. So we moved over to the annex at Donaldson First Church, and we've seen nothing but growth. So we went again from 4 or 5 guys standing around a fire to between 80 and 120 people a week. We get everything. We get druggie buggies come and drop off their folks from the halfway houses and stuff. We get newcomers, and that's what that meeting really is focused on, is the newcomers. We want them to come in and feel that energy. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Thank you for bringing me into that meeting.
Yeah, 100%.
You brought me in as a speaker, so told miniaturized version of my story and brought topic. Going to that meeting, I never found something that really felt like a home group here. I went to maybe 5, 6 different meetings before that. Never really found my footing and my group. Not that you need to.
Right.
But I remember going to the log cabin group, and there's this undeniable love. Like if you walk into that meeting and you don't know anyone, somebody will come and shake your hand.
100%.
So if there's anybody listening to this episode in the Nashville area, you should definitely check out the log cabin group. Yep. Tuesdays, 7:30.
Tuesdays at 7:30. We do a meeting before the meeting. We meet at Panera Bread on Royal Parkway.
No longer Fat Bites.
No, we started with Panera, and then we started doing some other restaurants in the area. But there's a cost consideration for newcomers, and we don't want cost to be a barrier to getting in that fellowship. So we'll meet. We usually meet about an hour and a half before the meeting, and get the new guys plugged in. And then we also do things outside of those two things. So, for example, tonight, the Log Cabin men's group is going to a movie out at the Thoroughbred in Franklin. We do that once a month. We also do incredible amounts of service. Like I had said before we started today, I was at a detox house over on Haywood Lane last night. We do outreach to the DUI school. We do
Williamson County?
Yeah, no, I think it's Davidson. I've not been, but that's something that we also do as far as service and outreach, and then again, detox centers and halfway houses and stuff like that. So, service being an important kind of cornerstone of my recovery, I'm all about it. I just love doing it. Yeah. I love helping the newcomer because they helped me.
It's funny because leading up to this episode, we were talking about how you're our first guest that doesn't work in treatment, but technically you do with all the service.
I volunteer in treatment.
You volunteer in treatment. Yes, that's way better put.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to start getting into some consequences, not to shift gears, but so you had blackouts, job losses, pancreatitis.
Yes.
Which I heard is awfully painful, and also led from drinking. So what took you so long for this to stick, and even after the hospitalization?
Sure. Yeah, it's the damnedest thing. It is, despite all of those consequences, missed opportunities, lost opportunities piling up, I soldiered on. Sometimes I wish that I had the type of dedication that I had to drinking and could apply that to things that are actually productive. But unfortunately, that was not in the cards for me.
Yeah.
What did it take? Well, the first time that I really made an earnest attempt to get sober was in the summer of 2018. And the consequence was my wife caught me drunk at 10 o'clock in the morning and said,
"Uh-oh.
That's it, man. We got to do something."
Yeah.
And I got sober at that point for the wrong reason. I got sober to save my marriage, and that lasted 14 months. So I white knuckled it and did all of the bare minimum, everything to make it look like I was doing everything I needed to do. I was checking the boxes. I was getting an A+ in recovery, but there was no service. There was no outside anything. I was going to a meeting. Probably 5 days a week, I was going to the Eastside Sunlighters at 7:30 in the morning and getting to know those folks a little bit. But that only lasted about a year. And then, so I stopped going to meetings in June of 2019, and I relapsed in August of 2019.
Did you have a sponsor at this time?
I did. My same
Okay.
sponsor that I have now.
Okay.
Chris F. has been my sponsor since the summer of 2018. He shepherded me through that relapse and got me to treatment when I needed it the most.
We'll definitely get more into that.
Yeah, 100%.
But the pancreatitis that
Yes.
you had, was that in 2018?
That was in 2011. So
Okay.
we moved to, today is my 15th anniversary moving to the city of Nashville from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Let's go.
And we moved here in February of 2011. Unfortunately, I took me with me. So I was, even though I pulled the geographic, I didn't get away from anything. So by, I think that was June of 2011, I was in the hospital with pancreatitis. And I was in the hospital for about a week and was released from the hospital. And I think I didn't drink for about 10 days after that.
It scared you for 10 days.
It scared me for 10 days. And that's exactly what it was. Well, this is a real consequence and I'll never drink again for a while. You know? So unfortunately, that made my drinking career a little bit more dangerous because it had become clear that I could no longer function in public while under the influence. But all I wanted to do was be under the influence. So I stopped going to bars and restaurants for my drinks, and I started going to liquor stores and bodegas for my drinks. And it became much more dangerous at that point because I was literally hiding it from everybody. I was hiding it from my wife. I was hiding it from my friends. I was hiding it from my bosses. I was hiding it from everybody. And the way that I drank was very, very dangerous.
Binge,
100%, and binge 7 nights a week. I mean,
yeah. What did that look like? Sometimes in the morning, always in the morning?
never in the morning. So
Okay.
again, as alcoholics and addicts, we make rules for ourselves. And I had been fired from, by the time I left Milwaukee, I was essentially unemployable. I had burned through all the goodwill, all the good friends, all the everything. I had just set the world on fire in Milwaukee. I could not be trusted. I could not be lived with. I couldn't do anything. And I moved here and it was still that same
Yeah.
And so my landlord got me a job at a restaurant in East Nashville, and you'll never guess what happened. I got fired for being drunk on the job.
No.
And so that was the rule that I set for myself, is that I would never jeopardize a job again because of my drinking. Now, it would never occur to the mind of an active alcoholic that might be the problem. No. Forget it.
Right.
So this was my ritual. I would get off of work, usually between 10 and 10:30 at night. Liquor stores in Tennessee close at 11, so buzz on over to the liquor store, pardon me, and buy enough to get me through that night, because I can't have like a handle of whiskey just sitting at the house. I don't drink anymore, right?
Right.
And so I would buy usually a pint of vodka, and then I would buy 2 big pistons of some kind of a beer. So Pabst, my hometown favorite, it's my culture.
Yeah.
And so what I would do is I would drink the 2 beers on the way home.
To warm you up, like a
To get,
pregame.
let's get primed.
You're
right?
not too buzzed to drive.
Right.
quote
And
unquote.
you can chug them down in the car, be good to go. Stop at the gas station, toss them in the trash, and then get home, crack into that pint. And when I say that I would drink half that pint all in one swallow, I'm not kidding. So I would have, some kind of a soda or lemonade or something like that, pour half of that pint into the cup, fill it up this much, put this much liquid on top of it. And I can still consume liquid like that. I could take this and just go, "Gah," and that's exactly what I would do. So you're talking, I think that a pint is like 10 measured drinks.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, I had the 2 tall boys on the way home. So I'm consuming 15 drinks within about 90 minutes.
That's steep.
That's steep.
Yeah.
And I did that for 7-8 years. And I was just discussing this and everything that would come along with that. So of course you're going to pass out. Of course you're going to piss yourself. Of course you're going to black out and say and do things that you don't mean. I mean, you're drinking an insane amount of alcohol
Quickly.
all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And more than, obviously I'm chasing oblivion at this point, but it's more I don't want to get caught. Full stop.
Yeah.
And the hangovers that would be accompanying that the next morning were just devastation.
How did you get through the hangovers and still make work?
The good news is that I would never have to be at work until 3 p.m. And so I would wake up probably 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, certain that I was going to die, and just spend that 3-4 hours just recovering, liquids, foods, cold showers, what. A lot of times what I would do is I would wake up at 8:30, eat something, drink something non-alcoholic, and then just go back to bed. Especially when my wife had a day job, she would leave for work 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. I was right back to bed. Wake back up at 2 o'clock, get in the shower, try and wash as much of the vodka off of me as possible, and then stagger into work.
I remember making, I don't know how to phrase this, but I remember kind of like bending my life to be hungover or maybe continue drinking at work, to where my friend Dave, that used to be a server way back in the day, he told me that when he was a server and hungover, normally he would have his tray in his left hand. When he was shaky, he would put it in his right hand. And he's like, that's how I got through work. So it's like we do these things to allow us to repeat these bad behaviors and like ruining our life. The pancreatitis, did it ever happen again?
No.
Okay. Luckily.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah, because I heard that it once it happens, it can reoccur.
It can
pretty
become
easily.
chronic. And the fact that never happened is a miracle. But I was suffering medically from my alcohol intake. And don't forget, I'm lying to everybody. My wife, my family, my coworkers, and my doctor. So I would go to the doctor, once a year or once every 6 months, and they would do a blood draw, and they'd be like, dude, your LDL is off the charts. Your triglycerides are off the charts. You're pre-diabetic. What are you doing? And I'm like, oh, cheeseburgers are good.
I really like food.
Yeah, 100%. And I had high blood pressure, so I was on high blood pressure meds and this and that and the other thing. And it turns out you take the alcohol out of the equation and everything just goes back to normal. So I am no longer on blood pressure meds. I'm no longer, I do take a statin for cholesterol, but that's more of a function of my age.
Same disease.
Yeah. So, but I did have to have that day of reckoning with my doctor too. Like, hey, I've been pulling your leg for almost 10 years and here we are.
You've made some even healthier choices getting sober, because I know that you've done Pilates for a really long time. And I think you were doing it like almost daily.
I was doing Pilates 6 days a week up until December. I had surgery on my foot in December, and I'm just about out of the woods as far as getting cleared to go back. So I'm expecting to make a triumphant return to Pilates in the next couple of weeks.
Good for you. I'm thankful that the pancreatitis never came back.
Yeah, I dodged a lot of bullets, and I can't emphasize that enough, especially when you spend time in the rooms with people who, and we try to avoid war stories because everybody's got them, but invariably it comes up, the consequences that other people faced. And I think about how many times I snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. I am a rabbit's foot when it comes to consequences. I did manage 2 DUIs. But other than that, not a whole lot.
I do remember a story when you were drinking heavily, and this is kind of a figment of my imagination almost. This is maybe 2017, 2018, something like that, where you drank way too much, and the next morning, or maybe that night, you went to the hospital or something, and they had to give you a banana bag. What you called it?
Yep. That was in 2015. I don't remember the circumstances leading up to.
It's probably one of our lunches. You told me about that.
Yeah, I drank until I had completely lost consciousness, and I was passed out on the living room floor, and my wife was basically trying to get me to wake up and saying, hey, if you don't wake up, man, I'm going to have to call an ambulance. And so she did. And I got picked up and taken to Skyline Medical Center, put on a banana bag, and and brought back to life in a way, I guess.
I'm guessing it's a banana bag because it's yellow.
Yes. Yeah, it's bright
Substance.
yellow, and I don't know, is it potassium or something that they put in it? But they
would
they
imagine.
colloquially refer to it as a banana bag, and it's just all of the things that you need to live. But yeah, and we were supposed to, I think that was in March of 2015, and we were supposed to, I think the following Monday, we were supposed to leave for New Orleans, and we were going to go get married, and that all got put on hold. We still made the trip to New Orleans, but we did not get married. We didn't get married until 2 years later.
Tumultuous times. It seems like
Just
autumn really
chaos.
You guys have made a way of working things out.
Yeah.
And improving your lives together.
Yeah, it's and it did nearly cost me the relationship several times, and lie through my teeth, because I was really good at hiding it. Like, show me the empty bottles, show me the this, show me the that, and she could never, so she couldn't pin me down and say,
You were
I
being
got
very
you,
crafty.
dude. Yeah, like Penn and Teller level of magician work.
Wow.
Sneak out, grab a bottle, hide a bottle here, hide a bottle there. And part of why I drank so quickly was because I needed to get the evidence out of the house.
Right. Yeah. You had a system down.
Oh, it was an airtight system. Airtight.
Amongst all this, and I don't know when, but cocaine entered the picture. How did that change the way you drank and also your denial at that point?
I was very fortunate to have been able to just put cocaine down. There was about a 3-year period when I was doing cocaine almost every day, when I was the general manager of a restaurant in Milwaukee, and that place was just a cocaine paradise. It was just everywhere.
So that's how it got introduced?
Yeah,
typically,
I can't think of a single other person on earth who tries cocaine for the first time at age 30, but that was me.
Yeah.
I had never touched it, never been around it, never this, never that.
And with work folk?
Yes.
I'm guessing? Okay.
Yes. So it started with, there was a guy who would eventually become my coke dealer. And I noticed he was just hanging out between the bathrooms. We were one of the first bars in the city to do a service industry night. And so we would just be overrun with maniacs every Sunday night. And there's this one guy just hanging out between the bathrooms, and everybody seems to know him, right? And so I walk up to him like, I'm the general manager here. Do you think I don't know what you're doing? And he literally asks me how much he's got to kick to me in order to keep doing what he's doing.
Wow.
And I don't know anything about coke, so I'm like, yeah, give me a quarter. So every Sunday, I'm getting a free 1/4 ounce of cocaine, like 2 8-balls, basically. And I became a damn popular guy after that.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I'm still married to my first wife at that time. And so I'm blowing everything up at home, but I'm just like fancying myself a mini little Scarface, when I go to work. And of course, that job crashed and burned. I got fired. And
Did it allow you to drink more? Because I know that some people will introduce a drug like that, an upper, so it allows them to drink more and longer.
yes, and it's hard to gauge at that point because we're talking 2004, 2005, so that's relatively early in when the switch happened. I used to just be a heavy drinker. When the switch flipped to being an alcoholic, when I was 27 or 28. So I was still only a couple years in. And I think I thought I could drink more and function better, but things got real wobbly on coke. And again, I think I probably did coke regularly for about 2.5 years or so. And I'll never forget it. I just woke up one day and it was just like, I don't like these people. I don't like this scene. I don't like the come down. I don't like anything. I don't like how expensive it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I just walked away and didn't really do it again. However,
Interesting.
Cocaine is in the story of my relapse in 2019. That's what kind of brought me back to the booze. We were in Mexico celebrating our wedding anniversary. Oh my God, this is terrible. Celebrating our wedding anniversary. And we were in Cabo, and we're at a resort in Cabo, and it's like the morning, we're swimming. I get up, I walk. You can't really walk the beach in that part of Cabo. It's all rocky and stuff, but there's a bunch of people hanging out down there. And I'm just sitting on the seawall looking over the ocean. And all of a sudden, just some guy on the beach is like, hey, amigo, you want? And he just shows me this baggie of white powder. So what's the smart thing to do during the height of this opioid crisis, right? Yeah, of course you buy a bag of white powder from a stranger in a foreign country. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
So I'm ripping lines, and by the time the vacation is over, I've cracked into the mini bar, and I'm in full relapse. So now I've returned to the United States with a little secret in my pocket.
Just to prove that no matter what it is, if it's cocaine, weed,
Yeah.
whatever your drug of choice is, if you dabble in something else,
Yes.
it will bridge you to
Oh,
that.
that's
because
not-
it's not your drug of choice.
Right.
You're-
Right. Because you're
or
just going to
whatever
be
gets you
tickling.
off.
You're just going to be tickling that. I always forget how the science of it works, but like heroin pokes at this one, cocaine pokes at this one, meth pokes at this one, weed pokes at this one. Alcohol fires all of them. So if you're tickling one of them, of course I want all of them to fire.
Right.
Because that's my DOC. That's my comfort zone, is in that oblivion. So to demonstrate the progressive nature of this illness, my story is a prime example of that, because I relapsed in August of 2019, and I ended up in rehab in April of 2020. So that's 8 months. It took me 8 months to get back to where it had taken me 45 years to get to the first time, which is, to me, demonstrable proof that the next time is going to be the last time.
Right.
I won't survive if I go out again.
Your first trip, 2018, to rehab was.
I've only been to rehab one time. And that was in 2020. The other time, when Autumn came home and found me hammered at 10 o'clock in the morning, that was okay, I'm going to go to AA, because
Gotcha. Okay.
all the half measures in the world, right? I'll do anything to not lose this relationship. It was never, boy, I sure need the separation. I need to be away from this and really do some work. It's now I'm going to go to some meetings.
Let's talk about half measures here,
Yeah.
because you've been vocal about having not doing half measures in recovery,
Yes.
in treatment. How did that show up for you in doing half measures that first time? What did that lead you to from doing half measures? Probably treatment, but how did you figure out to not do half measures and do the full scope of treatment?
I think that really speaks to the true nature of surrender. I think that the half measures that I embarked upon over the years, and it says it in the literature too. Okay, I'm not going to drink scotch anymore. I'm going to switch to brandy. Brandy's not working. I'm only going to drink beer. I'm only going to drink on the weekends. I'm only going to drink with friends. I'm only going to drink without friends. I'm only going to do this. I'm only going to do that. Those are the half measures that sort of punctuated my drinking career. The nature of the real surrender, when I staggered across the threshold at Discovery Place, and my sponsor had told me, like, do everything they tell you to do. Don't do your own version of what they tell you to do. Don't say, I'm going to do everything except that. You're going to do all of it.
If they tell you to do 90-90, do it.
Right. Yes. 100%.
Get a sponsor, do it.
Right.
Go through the steps, do it.
Right.
Work with a sponsee, do it.
Yes. I think that being willing to be teachable, being willing to accept that running on my own willpower is a road to an early grave. It took just that little opening of willingness for me to be like, okay, the way I'm doing this it's not working. And so we're truly at a crossroads. I'm either going to die or I'm going to live. Those are my only two choices. And it became clear to me that with my track record and my history of these half measures, that the way I was doing it was going to lead to death. And so I finally stopped listening with my mouth and started listening with my ears. And I met some really amazing people inside at Discovery Place, people that I'm still in contact with to this day, who were able to love me until I was able to just function and maybe love myself a little bit.
Was part of this, and I know this is kind of my story, but was part of this was you didn't think you deserved a great life. And on top of that, you didn't think that you would live a long life as well. Because sometimes I think about that, and that's where I was mentally.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely, in getting to know myself, and a lot of this was through writing a 4th step and going through the 5th step and making quite a few amends over the years, is from a very young age, I always felt an emptiness on the inside. And that necessarily, to me, led to an identity crisis. I never knew who I was.
Right.
All I knew was that I had this insatiable, unquenchable need to change the way I felt. And it started young. Mm-hmm. I was a voracious reader as a young person. I read above my grade level starting early. And I would stay up until 2, 3, 4 in the morning just reading fantasy novels, horror novels, think completely age inappropriate novels because I could immerse in that. And I was gone and I was a different person and I was living in that world. Part of it is where I grew up. And I'm sure you can identify because you grew up in the suburbs too. Mm-hmm. There's a name for it. It's called ennui. It is just like an aimlessness. I didn't know that what I was feeling was a lack of culture until I moved into the city, but to me, like, if white flight was a place, it's where I grew up and it's where you grew up. And it's just this beige conformist, like kind of goofiness, and everything just felt fake to me.
I couldn't wait to get out.
Oh, dude, like there was a puff of smoke in the shape of my body when I turned 18 and I was like, bye. You're like, I gotta go. Like, I don't know what I'm looking for, but this ain't it, and then into adulthood, in early adulthood, I was more of a drugs guy than a booze guy early on. Pot, psychedelics, stuff like that. Never anything hard. The hardest thing I had ever done up until the age of 30 was acid. And it wasn't until I started bartending at age like 22 that I really sort of developed my taste for alcohol.
Do you think that filled that hole in you better than everything else did?
It did. It's like what Bill says what it says in Bill's story. I've arrived, right?
Yeah.
I've arrived. I'm the bartender. And the place that I worked, it was in Tosa. It was old school Italian restaurant. And it was like at the time that The Sopranos was real big and all that stuff. So everybody's a tough guy and everybody's real this and real that. And work for these guys that look like they're from Central Casting, And so I met the most bizarre people, but I really felt like I belonged because
you felt like you found yourself.
I'm in a bar room that seats 200 people and 75 of them know me by first name and I've got what they want, right? Mm-hmm. So of course I'm the most popular guy in the room, and
you're all of a sudden the man.
Yeah.
And you're popular.
And my feeling of detachment that I would carry with me, you put a couple cocktails on top of that and all of a sudden that anxiety about just existing in the world, that just sort of gets muted a little bit. And all of a sudden I can talk to girls and all of a sudden I can talk like a tough guy. And, it was an identity, but it wasn't my identity. It was just an identity that I was kind of putting on myself.
Like we talked about in the program, you had a different mask on.
Yes, 100%.
And
100%.
we have many different masks.
Yes.
When we're using and in active addiction.
None of which are authentic.
Right.
Which, again, living a lie,
shifting gears here, I do want to talk about you had a spiritual deficiency. Mm-hmm. At what point? And when do you think you discovered that? Mm-hmm. And what did you do to not or have a lack thereof of spirituality?
I think that I had conflated spirituality and religiosity, which are not the same.
Oh, gosh. Me too. Can I give you a little timeout here? Because when I got a call, Music Cares helped get me sober. Mm-hmm. I went to Center City, Minnesota, the Hazelden there.
Sure.
And I was on the phone with admissions, and one of the questions was, do you consider yourself spiritual? And I thought she was asking if I'm religious. Yeah. So, and I said, no. So I can level with that.
Yeah, 100%. I still consider myself to be what I refer to as a militant agnostic. Like, I just really don't buy into the structure of particularly American religion, which, I'm not here to bag on people who are religious, because I know a lot of people who live the faith. But when I was a kid, we went to church every Sunday, and I went to Sunday school all the way up until I was confirmed. And then my parents were basically like, this is your choice. You're a confirmed member of this church. You can go or not go, which I'm really grateful to them for giving us that choice. You know, it's not like you're going to do this and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't like that. But what I saw, again, feeding into that emptiness and lack of identity that I felt growing up, as I would, the same people I went to church with are the same people that I went to school with, are the same people that I was existing in the society of that city with. And I would see people say and act a certain way on Sundays and then go out into the world and act the complete opposite. And to me, it was all just a big performative grift. And I still feel that way in a lot of respects, because I think that in the Christian tradition, I don't know what this is in the United States right now, but it ain't Christianity. It certainly is not Christ-like. But as an alcoholic, I dismissed that completely out of hand. You're weak-minded. You've got the problem. It's not me. Here's the thing, though, is that rejecting Christianity is not a rejection of spirituality. And the way that it was explained to me is particularly in early recovery at Discovery Place. I was talking to one of the guides who works there. He says, how's your spiritual life? I said, non-existent. Okay, well, you're drinking with a religious fervor. And that just stopped me dead in my tracks.
Wow.
What the hell are you talking about? He says, well, if it's the first thing you think about when you wake up because you're so hungover you can barely function, and it's the last thing you think about when you either go to sleep or more accurately lose consciousness, then you're worshiping at the altar of something. If you're worshiping at the altar of oblivion, and we can just kind of shift you on over to something a little bit more spiritual, I think that we can get you on the right path. And so I've been a big believer, and I wish I could dig up the original quote. I actually heard it from the actor Rainn Wilson. He came from some bizarre religious background, but the saying or the idiom or the axiom is religion or Christianity or whatever. It's the blanket that we throw over the great mysteries to see what shape they are. Now, if I reject Christianity on its face, that doesn't mean that those great mysteries don't still exist. And I was really helped. We actually share a therapist. And before I left for treatment, he gave me a book to take with me to treatment. And it was bizarre because you were only allowed to bring conference-approved literature into Discovery Place. But for whatever reason, they helped me they let me hold on to that book. And I read that book when I got really sick of reading the big book and the 12 and 12. I would crack open this book, and it was a book from the Buddhist tradition. And it talked about how to meditate and the function of meditation. And I think that is what I've adopted as my spirituality, is that the sort of concept of karmic realignment, that if you put good out into the universe, generally speaking, you will receive the good back. And that was what kind of crawled me out of that hole.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I also experienced a miracle. Like, the whole world shut down so I could go to treatment. Don't forget, April 20th of 2020, all the restaurants were closed. I was on the phone with my boss telling her that I was leaving for treatment, and she was like, dude, there's no better time to do this. You're not missing any work. Matter of fact, I got paid $875 a week on enhanced unemployment when I went to treatment.
Go to treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the closest thing that I come to saying, like, thank God or thank Jesus or whatever, my kind of catch-all for that is no coincidences. Like, if it wasn't a miracle, at least it needs to be acknowledged that this was no kind of coincidence, that this was just sort of the universe lining up so I could kind of like
see the light.
Yes.
How has meditation helped you through this?
So from that book that I had read, Here's the deal. And we had a shorthand for it inside of Discovery Place. We called it the Crazy Picture Show. The shorthand for it was this. Are you doing this right now? Are you doing this right now? Because inside my head is this constantly going just train of thought, and it is not rational. It is anxiety ridden. It is angry. It is judgmental, and it's not realistic. This is not the voice of reason that is running through my head. And in this book, they tell the story about in the Indian subcontinent, India, Bhutan, Pakistan, all that stuff, they don't treat dogs the same way that they do here. They don't necessarily keep them as pets. They just kind of run feral on the streets. So as you're walking through the cities in the Indian subcontinent, all you hear in the background is just dogs barking, dogs barking, dogs barking, dogs barking. Now, several times throughout the day, for whatever reason, all the dogs stop barking at once. And then they start right back up. The purpose of meditation is not to become a great meditator. The purpose of meditation is to get those dogs to stop barking, if only for a couple of seconds. And that's where your clarity comes from. That's where your intention setting comes from. And that's where the baseline comes from for you to be a functioning adult in the society. I wish I could say I was an amazing meditator or I did it with any sort of frequency or things like that. But it's a process and it's a journey,
No, thank you for sharing all that.
Of course.
I mean, it's so wonderful that you found that and that you had the book on Buddhism with you.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about many different types of religion.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up Catholic and went to Catholic school until 4th grade and was forced into CCD in Sunday school until middle school. That's a whole nother conversation for a different time. But I struggled with getting sober and doing the 12-step program because of the G word. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I did the meeting at the log cabin group, that was my topic, that I struggled with the G word. Mm-hmm. And what helped me, because this is so funny, there's so many strange parallels with brothers in recovery or just recovery people in general. So when I went to Hazelden, there was this guy, Luke, in the room next to me, played sitar, musician, had a record label. He was a Buddhist. And I remember when I kept reading the literature and God kept being brought up. And I said to the group, I'm like, hey, you guys, I don't believe in God. Am I going to be okay? Mm. And they all gave me a hug and they're like, yeah, of course you're going to be okay. And then Luke pulled me aside and said, in the Buddhist literature, they don't read God as God, they read it as good. Mm-hmm. So every time I read the literature from then on, I would read it as good. Yeah. And that kind of made me see past it and just take my blinders off. Sure. So Buddhism in a way also helped me as well.
Yeah. And I think that the way that the 12-step program is structured leaves room for the non-Christian, which I think is a very important, but again, all of my half measures, and I say this all the time when I'm talking about the actual moment when I made the decision to go to treatment, where I'm like, I wish I could see my Google history at that time, because it was literally like how to get sober without AA, how to do everything but AA. Because I was perceiving it as this thinly veiled Christian organization. And let's not get it twisted. That's where AA started. AA is an offshoot of the Oxford Group, which is an evangelical Christian organization. But they realized early on that they were necessarily cutting out a portion of the population that was suffering because of their non-Christianity or their reticence toward Christianity. Now, we've already gone over.
Thank you for mentioning that.
How I felt about the Christians that I had grown up with, that they were hypocrites and jerks and all this stuff. But, when they say like God can be anything, it can be that doorknob over there. Okay, cool.
I've heard that too.
When we reach the part where I'm asking the doorknob to remove my character defects, then what do we do? And
my desire to drink.
Right. Yeah. And so God to me is the catch-all for all of the things that are beyond my capacity to understand. And that's how I kind of carry forward with it. And I've been a magnet for sponsees who struggle religiously. And I'm like, hey, you can achieve long-term sobriety without cracking a Bible one time. Right. which is great. I think that keeping our tent big and our umbrella broad is one of the most important things about keeping this organization moving.
Thank you for mentioning all that.
Yeah.
Because there are people out there that are still not getting sober because of the G word in the
Yes,
literature.
100%.
Thinking it's Catholic adjacent, Switching gears, you in your career have wildly changed. You've taken a 180. You're now a realtor.
Yes.
You're no longer in the service industry.
That's correct.
And you've teamed up with your wife. Like, tell me some moments lately that are so wildly different than when you used to work in the service industry, and also you guys working as a team. Like, how does this affect your marriage? Does it make it more stressful? Does it make it more harmonious?
Yeah.
Do you guys show up differently for each other because you're also working together now? And
I think that getting out of the service industry was like the last little vestigial organ of my drinking career. Part of my drinking career was getting home late at night and leaving for work in the afternoon. And my wife even said it a couple of weeks ago where she was like, I feel like we're finally grown-ups.
Like you're adulting.
Like we're adulting finally. Yeah. We've been adulting this whole time, but it's been like adulting with a little asterisk next to it because I'm still, I'm running with a crowd that's half my age. That's what it is. Everybody I work with is, 30 or younger with very few exceptions. Most people find their way out of the industry and I just stuck with it. I worked with a lot of people that are now in their 60s that still work in the service industry. This is not a
knock on that.
No, not at all. Not at all. But, my wife had reached a crossroads in her career where she needed to hire somebody on. And it was just, I was frustrated enough with my position in the service industry to be like, maybe I should try something different. She's like, well, why don't you get your license and we'll get you the hell out of there. And that's what we did. And it's been, it's obviously been an adjustment. We have two different working styles. We have different styles for getting out and finding business. She's more the like pound the phone, scratching the dirt. And I'm more like, well, I've built relationships with people in all these different circles and all these different facets. And I'm just going to I'm going to bring it in that way.
I think it's great that you guys are different thinkers.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There's a lot of net positives there.
Yeah, something that we talked about just the other day, where we had done some kind of a presentation or something, and she was Monday morning quarterbacking that presentation, and I was like, "Here's how we complement each other. I overthink beforehand, and you overthink after the fact. So we really balance each other out because you're not going to hear any of my bullshit overthinking it on the front end, and I'm not going to hear any of your bullshit overthinking it on the back end. So it is. We have really become more of that like one unit. There have been times where we've been able to accomplish things in this world where we've referred to it as autumn with four arms. Like this is where we're just able to just accomplish a little bit more just because we've got an extra set of hands here to do it. Right. Which is incredible.
I know that she's an amazing salesperson.
Oh yeah.
Her previous job, she was winning awards all over the place.
Yep.
And she was the #1 salesman. And you guys won trips.
Yep.
All over the place.
My first trip to Hawaii.
Yeah. So I know that she's really good at what she does,
Yeah.
and I've also worked with her a bit too. You guys have a couple different properties now, and you have so many things in the works.
Yep.
I'm just congratulations on making the change.
Thanks,
and
man.
You did go back to school.
I did.
At one point too.
I did.
Would you have done that while you're still fucked up and drinking?
The entire time that I was in school, I was in active addiction.
Okay.
Yep. So I went to.
How did that fare?
The results were mixed. I didn't get my degree, and I still consider that to be a regret. But I was going for a degree in public policy in political science, and considering the current state of affairs, I don't know that that's an area that I would want to be working in actively at this time.
It's nice to be informed, though.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
have your own solid opinions.
Yeah.
And Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine had that one quote, kind of digging into somebody, ripping on him for having so many political ideals and ideas. And he's like, you don't have to be in a rock band and have a political science doctorate through Harvard.
Yeah.
But I do.
Yeah.
So education's always power.
100%.
Do you ever think that you'll go back and finish that?
I've definitely thought about it because all that's left for me to do is basically an internship, which would be interesting, throwing a 50-year-old in with a bunch of 22-year-olds doing their
It's also not
internship.
conducive to your lifestyle now and money.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine doing an internship right now.
Yeah, it would be like a 6-month internship. And as a matter of fact, I was trying to put together an internship for the spring of 2020 to finish my degree. And then everything just kind of went to hell. The tornado happened, like all this stuff happened, COVID. I went to treatment, and then everything just has kind of backburnered. And once I got out of treatment, it was like, you know what, that's in the maybe pile down the road. And I may someday just finish up in order to, you know, just accomplish it and say that I did it. But I feel no urgency to get that done just because I don't think it's a field I would ever go into these days.
Okay.
You can't work in government in a state that hates government.
Right.
It's just not.
I was curious about that. So
Yeah,
thank
for
you
sure.
for answering. And for the addicts out there, this is one of my last questions, but for the addicts, alcoholics out there that haven't lost everything, what would you say to them that they're just continuing down this path, floating along, struggling, using, stealing, whatever they're doing at whatever level, but they haven't lost everything? What would you say to them to help them or make them see the light?
The bottom comes when you stop digging. Whatever you think rock bottom is, it can get so much worse. And you don't have to have somebody die to stop. We live, particularly us, we live in Nashville, Tennessee, which is one of the most vibrant recovery communities in the entire world.
Agreed.
And the good news is that we take everybody. We take everybody. It doesn't matter, and it says it in the literature, it doesn't matter how far down the scale you've come or you've gone. We're always here, and we'll always accept you. You can fall into our arms. All you got to do is stop fighting, stop digging, whatever it is.
That bottom, it's endless. You can keep digging.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
What if somebody's thinking about getting sober, but they're continuing because they don't have a vibrant community and recovery?
I think it's possible to choose not to have that network. We can build that network. We are everywhere. You know, this again is a disease that does not discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or of any sort of protected status. There is a recovery community for you. We're not here to judge you. We're here to help you. And I stand on the shoulder of giants. There are people whose names I don't know that have paved this road for me. And I continue to do that for others. It doesn't matter whatever your deepest, darkest secret is. Part of what I do is I receive fifth steps several times per year. I've heard some dark shit. I've done some dark shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, all of these things that we're holding inside, that we're medicating or numbing with our drugs of choice, are going to kill us. Be it through, you know, anxiety, depression,
Fear.
alcohol use disorder, fear, you name it. This is how we die without a serious readjustment and realignment of how we continue forward.
And my suggestion would also be you could start your own. I mean, look at you showing up with 3 or 4 guys around a campfire, and it turned into a meeting of 90 to 120 every Tuesday. And there are also meetings that people probably don't know about in their area.
Sure. Yeah, there's a clubhouse that's right by where I live now that holds a midnight meeting once a week, and it's 4 people in the service industry.
So crazy.
Yeah, crazy,
I didn't
right?
know that.
And then I go to another meeting on Thursday nights. That's it's a much smaller group that focuses entirely on emotional sobriety. Steps 6, 7, 10, and 11. That's all we focus on. And it's, it's for people who maybe have a couple years under their belts and maybe are struggling to find something fresh and new or whatever. And, maybe your self-will without the substances is still running riot. Maybe you're obsessed with money. Maybe you're obsessed with sex. Maybe you're obsessed with gambling. Yeah. And, so we focus strictly on 6, 7, 10, and 11. That meets right around the corner here in Brentwood every Thursday night.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I just can't thank you enough for doing this.
Yeah. Who would have thought when we were staggering around together in Cafe Hollander 17 years ago
that we'd be doing
that we'd
this
end up on a
Nashville.
podcast in Nashville, Tennessee.
I know. My life constantly blows my mind. Like, I don't know how I got here, but I do.
Yeah.
I know the steps that I took, and I know the things that I changed and aligned, and just getting honest and also making mistakes.
Oh, 100%.
I think mistakes are the most beautiful thing because then you have something to correct. Mm-hmm. But you have to get honest about your mistakes. Yeah. And I want to thank you for a few different things here. Of course, for doing today. I want to thank you for adopting Baxter, my dog.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
So my wife and I have a cat. It's her cat that I gained through marriage and relationship, and they don't get along. They would fight like cats and dogs. And so you took Baxter without question.
Yeah.
And I can't thank you in Autumn
100%.
more. Yeah. And I remember the day that I moved here almost 11 years ago, you showed up in the morning to help me carry boxes. I've never forgotten that. And you brought me into the log cabin group. There's just so many things. And you had a lot of suggestions for me to get involved in the recovery community when I first moved here, the Dharma group. I learned about 202 from you. There's so many things that I'm thankful for that you don't know that I'm thankful for, I'm sure.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just love you so much, and everything you've shared is just rock solid. You could also get at Matt if you're looking to get into some property or sell your house. What's your at?
We are at Season and Stone Real Estate Specialists. We are under the Berkshire Hathaway brokerage, and we all over Middle Tennessee.
Great.
Absolutely.
Now get at Mathew Dwyer, and he spells it weirdly with no double T.
That's right, just one T. Thanks, Mom.
Suss him out. And then if you like this podcast, Breaking Down Addiction, and want to see more episodes, please like and subscribe and do all the things on socials. Leave us a 5-star review if you can. Everything helps. And look out for your brother and sister out there. And thank you so much for your friendship and everything, Matt.
I appreciate
Love you.
Love you too.